I'm a security guard through a company. Well, never mind. I guess it doesn't matter, knowing the type of people who read these things. They'll try and get a job at this company in hopes to have an encounter. I've been in security for my entire adult life so far. Right out of high school, I got a job offer, checking in trucks to go unload at shipping docks. It's a fairly laid-back job, but this was different. I'm now 23 and I've never experienced anything like that post before in my life. I'm not new to the paranormal or things that go bump in the night. Almost all of my family has had encounters with all sorts of paranormal creatures, from ghosts to cryptids and everything in between. Someone in my family has probably seen it or knows someone who has. My father and grandfather have had an encounter with the Beast of Bray Road multiple times between the two of them. My grandmother has had experiences with ghosts, and I've seen what are called shadow people at an old abandoned sanitarium named Waverly Hills. You would expect someone who has come to grips with the paranormal since they were a small child would not get frightened easily. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. What I saw was unimaginable, evil, and then I pray every night for those who will ever encounter it as well. It all started so calm and peaceful. The perfect post with plenty of downtime, and great pay and a fast track to upper management. I guess if it sounds too good to be true, then, well, it probably is. The first 8 hours of my shift went by without a hitch. My shifts lasted from 1800 all the way until 600. I preferred night shifts, being that I was still fairly young, and I was a night owl by nature. My job consisted of 3 major post orders. 1. To ensure that no one steps foot on property unless authorized by my supervisor. 2. To do patrols alongside the exterior perimeter of the site every other hour on the dot. And 3. Make sure that no one enters the abandoned warehouse to my back left from the guard shack, and to find anyone who enters as quickly as possible. It seems straightforward, with motion-activated cameras and a well-maintained path around the perimeter of the site. What could go wrong? The first 2 hours of my shift was just meant for the shift change and to talk over anything that might have happened on the previous shift, with the guard that I was relieving of duty. The rest of the shift consisted of patrols every other hour for the remainder of the shift. Each patrol roughly took 30 minutes to complete, and nothing ever happened except maybe the occasional animal, like a deer or a rabbit being seen past the fence in the adjacent field. It was time for me to start my first patrol when I found a list of rules in the high-vis vest on the back of my chair. What the heck, not this again. I've seen this prank played out too many times in my years in this field. Everyone loves to leave a list of magical rules for the new guy to follow, and to scare into looking behind his back every 30 seconds while out on patrol. I decided to at least read the rules to see if they were at the very least creative. Rule number 1. Never enter the abandoned warehouse between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. Rule number 2. If for any reason that rule number 1 is broken, there is a handgun and cross in the security office of the building, hidden under the desk if you need them. Rule number 3. Never say thank God or Jesus at any point while in the building. You'll only make it angry. Rule number 4. Never at any point look behind you while in the building, and keep your eyes locked in front of you and maintain a brisk pace. You don't want to see it, and if you do, may God help your soul. Rule number 5. If you hear a child crying or whispering to you, run as fast as you can out of the building and call your supervisor immediately. Rule number 6. If you stumble upon any staircase leading below grade, walk the other way immediately, or else you will encounter it. Rule number 7. Always have a source of light, no matter how dim it is. It and the cross provided in the security office are the only things that will keep it at a distance. If you lose one, you best hope that you don't lose the other. Failure to follow any of these rules will result in serious injury or death. I cannot guarantee your safety if you fail to follow these rules at any point. Signed, Tim Burton. What the heck? Tim would never pull a prank like this. He's too by the books and no nonsense. I've worked under him since I've started, and there's no way this was actually written by him. I felt a sense of uneasiness and cold beads of sweat coming from my forehead. What the heck are those rules? How was a flashlight and a cross going to stop whatever it was? Suddenly, my alarm on my wristwatch started blaring, letting me know that it was 8 p.m. and time for my first perimeter patrol. The list had me pretty shaken up. What did it mean by it? Did Tim really write those rules? Is that why the pay is so good for this post? I proceeded on with my duties and completed each patrol. I felt like I was being watched the entire time when I was outside of the guard shack. My mind kept racing back to the list every single time, with any sound other than the ones that I was making. And then came time for the 2 a.m. patrol. That's when I saw what looked like a young girl, no older than 4, giggling and running into the warehouse. I jumped up and grabbed my high visibility vest when I remembered rule number 1. Never enter the abandoned warehouse between the times of midnight and 4 a.m. This can't be happening. Wasn't there something about a child in the rules? I proceeded to pull out the list and read until I came to rule number 5. If you hear a child crying or whispering to you, run as fast as you can and call your supervisor immediately. Was this the child that rule number 5 had mentioned? There's no way these rules are real, right? Fear washed over me as I stood there thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do? I can't lose this job. My wife had just found out that she was pregnant with our first child 3 months ago. I have to go in and find this little girl, even if there's a small chance that the rules are real. I made my approach to the warehouse's entrance and felt like I was being watched, like someone or something was right behind me, breathing down my neck. The stone stairs leading up to the door of the entrance were cracked with weeds, growing between the stone that was once well maintained for decades. The door itself was a large glass door with old signs and posters, either torn or worn to the point that they were no longer readable. As I entered, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread and hatred, like I entered an animal's nest uninvited. This had once been a popular spot for teenagers to come and get into all sorts of trouble, and doing anything you could imagine a young rebellious teenager would do. That was until a group of 3 teenage boys were found dead throughout the building after a 4th called 911, frantically begging for help. The 4th boy was never found, and is still missing to this day. The reception hall was covered in graffiti and trash splattered across the floor with no regard for the once beautiful tile that lay underneath it. I've seen pictures of the building from its heyday, and it was a real, beautiful sight to behold. It makes you wonder what made them abandon it. The building never went up for sale publicly, and it was acquired by the government eventually, after the company had filed for bankruptcy. There's been rumors that the 4 boys were sacrificed by some kind of satanic ritual, trying to bring forth a demon into this world, but I never took any stock in it. It always seemed to be one of those spooky stories told over the campfire, by some kid trying to scare and impress his friends like so many other stories before it. I snapped out of the admiration of the beauty of what the building would have looked like once before, decades ago, and I remembered rule number 2. If for any reason rule number 1 is broken, there's a handgun and a cross in the security office of the building, hidden under the desk, and you'll need them. The security office was right next to the entrance by the receptionist desk. I reached for my key ring at my waist when I heard it. A child crying. Fear shot over my once blank face as panic set in. I fumbled the keys faster and with even more haste with each passing second. Whatever was making that noise was no child. It had a dark, raspy undertone to it, just barely able to be heard by my own ears. I remembered rule number 7. Always have a source of light, no matter how dim it may be. It and the cross provided in the security office are the only things that will keep it at a distance. If you lose one, you better hope that you don't lose the other. That crap. It was coming closer and almost was at the top of the steps, adjacent to me on my right when I finally found the right key and hurried into the guard's office, slamming the door shut behind me. Holy crap, what was that? Are these rules actually real? There's no way. I quickly located the desk to the far left corner of the pitch black room, and underneath it was a box labeled Emergency Use Only. I approached the box and I opened it. Inside was a small wooden cross and a Glock 17 with 2 spare magazines of 9mm ammo. Jesus, the rules they have to be real. There's too many coincidences for them not to be real. I analyzed the wooden cross, finding the word protect inscribed on the old wood, when I heard a deafening smash in the front lobby from which I just came, to the sound of children crying. Holy crap, this isn't happening. I had just broken rule number 3. Never say thank God or Jesus at any point while in the building. You'll only make it angry. Whatever that thing is, whatever it means, it's right outside of the guard office and it's pissed off. I sat there in the office for the next hour and 45 minutes, but I'm truth that it felt like days had passed. When I checked my watch, I realized that I had 5 minutes left until whatever this thing is supposed to go away from whatever pit that it came from. I gathered my thoughts and opened up the guard office door and bolted towards the front door for my freedom. When I tried to open the door, it was locked. Did you really think it was going to be that easy? You still got an hour with me. I froze in place, mortified by the fear. I looked down to check my watch and it was right. It read 3 a.m. What? That's not possible, it just read 3:55. I sat there frozen in place, waiting to meet my fate at the hands of whatever this demonic entity is, but it never came. I sat there frozen as I heard a little girl's laughter ring down the hallway. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't want to kill me just yet. It wants to make me suffer and slip into insanity with its games and its taunts. I have to find a way out of here quickly, before this sick game loses its spark of enjoyment. I turned and faced what lay ahead of me. To my left, a hall that continued for what seemed like forever towards the shipping docks. That wasn't going to be any good, as all these shipping docks were sealed and closed when the warehouse was abandoned, and there was no escaping in that direction. And to my right was the flight of stairs that I originally had heard the demon from. And then there was straight ahead, where I just went laughing all the way, into the deep dark abyss that awaited. I bit my tongue and chose the stairs and prayed to God that I had made the correct choice. The stairs led to a locker room area. The entire locker room was smeared in blood. I saw the corpse of what I can only presume was a previous victim, laying there motionless and as cold as stone, with dried blood on the wall spilling out. Welcome home. I was horrified by the sight of it. I felt like vomiting when I heard, "Isn't it beautiful when they sleep? Soon you'll join him and be at peace. That's why they brought me here, so that everyone can experience the eternal sleep where there is no war, no pain and no sorrow. And to think I'm viewed as the evil one. I quickly rushed down the staircase on the other end of the room, remembering rule number 4. Never at any point look behind you while in the building. Keep your eyes locked in front of you and maintain a brisk pace. You won't want to see it, and if you do, may God help your soul. I ran down the stairwell as fast as I could, but I tripped and fell hard, destroying my flashlight and losing the cross in the process. I had to keep going on, so I did. I went on and on for what must have been 3 or 4 flights of stairs. I saw a doorway with what appeared to be the first glimpse of daylight. I looked at my watch and it said 5:57, and I felt a sudden rush of joy wash over me, until I heard it. Got you.